Okay, everybody, I think we're going to start. Welcome. Glad everybody took the time today on this sunny Tuesday after all this horrible weather. You could have been out at the park or something, or at the beach here. But you're here to join us, and we just wanted to say thank you and welcome. So Harry, you've heard Harry go through the different paths of service, and you're here in this room because you're interested in the appointed path of service. We have a wonderful panel who will be sitting up here after I go through these PowerPoint slides first to discuss, basically the importance of serving on the appointed boards and commissions, and if you're interested in doing so, how would you go about doing it at the local, county, and state level. So, I just wanted to stress about the fact, I think Harry mentioned this too, that the success and failure of our governments can't just lay in the responsibility of our elected officials. It also rests in each one of us, the people. We all need to get involved to be part of the change within our communities. Instead of, if you're not satisfied with what's happening in your town or your county or your state, it's your responsibility to do something to be part of the change. And that's why you're here today. And here, through this PowerPoint and through this panel, you'll learn how to do that through the appointed service. So I'm just going to take a couple of minutes. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Lauren Skronsky, and I work with the Citizens Campaign. I work with Harry. I'm the state campaign director. And we're going to go through this short PowerPoint presentation. So the importance of leadership on town boards and commissions. I think we can all understand, why it's important. As I mentioned before, we can't just, expect our leaders to do everything. They're just, one man or woman themselves, and there's only a few, maybe a dozen max in a very large city. So, if you times that by tens of thousands of people in every town, county, and state being even larger, they can't take care of every single issue that affects us on a daily basis. And these boards and commissions basically were created so that they can specifically deal with specific problems or issues that are happening within our towns and counties and state government. So that's why it's important to serve on these boards and commissions. And the benefits of the appointed office. We have a few listed here. It really is an opportunity for you to develop leadership skills. You are part of real influence on policy making. So, if you're looking to get involved in politics, this isn't an elected position in most of the boards and commissions. Well, we're talking about the appointed boards, so they're not elected. So you don't need to run for office. It really is a very attainable position for everyday people. It doesn't take that much time or effort. It takes as much as you want to put into it. Most boards and commissions at every level of government meet about once a month, and that's the active boards. So, if you're looking to get into politics, this is a great way to start. Build relationships, build skills that you'll need, further on in your career. Okay. I'm having some difficulty here, okay. So, also the second bullet point, official status when addressing the council or the freeholder board and the media. If you are a member of the Environmental Commission, let's say, and you are talking about the need to your city council to clean up a toxic, contaminated site within your city, going before the council and making this presentation on what needs to be done to clean up this site has a little bit more weight if you say, I'm Lauren Skronsky, member of the Environmental Commission here in the city. Then you always have influence as a citizen, but being, having that title gives you just a little bit more oomph. The opportunity to help the city meet its challenges, we talked about that before. Our elected leaders can't do it alone, so this is a way to help bring our expertise and our knowledge to bear. A record of service that can enhance your leadership options. We covered that already. And exposure to setting public policy. Again, these boards and commissions, they're they're really not just, you know, things that were arbitrarily set up. They really do have influence on policy making within your town and county and the state as well. So every town, we're going to talk about the local level, every town has hundreds of these commissions. You know, even in a small town, you've got maybe 3 or 4 or 5 boards and commissions, and each one has anywhere from, you know, 5 to 10 positions on each of them. So maybe that's not hundreds in a small town, but typically on an average city, we've got hundreds of positions that are available. And again, they're not elected, they're appointed. So there are usually a lot of vacancies on these boards. Typically these boards and commissions are, the members are reappointed or appointed for the first time at the reorganization meeting, which happens in January. So unless you're in a nonpartisan town, that would happen in July. And there are some that might be appointed, you know, at any given time throughout the year as well. We did a study last year, and we found that across the state, at the municipal level, there was 1/3 of all boards and commissions were vacant. So that's a lot of seats. If you break it down by counties, a lot of seats that are available. If you apply, you have a very good chance because there's no competition there of getting a seat on these positions. Additional appointed positions are available at the county level, at the state level, and also on the school board area of your town as well. We have curriculum committees and things like that. So how do you decide where to serve? You really want to attend the meetings of the boards. You have to do your research, basically. So if you think you might be interested in an environmental commission in your town, go to some of those meetings. Find out from your town clerk when they meet, and go to those meetings. See what kind of issues are they discussing. Meet the chair, meet the board members. Maybe talk to your mayor or city council members. And anything that I'm saying right now, dealing with the local level, also applies at the county level. You talk to your freeholders or the chairs or members of those county boards, and also at the state level too. You might not have access to the governor who does the appointments, but the governors, each of the governors have an appointments office. So they're always available to take your call and answer any questions about the boards and commissions as well. Read newspaper coverage to see what boards are of interest to you. See if, everybody here probably has an issue that is important to them, that they're passionate about. See what boards and commissions are geared around that issue and are dealing with, trying to solve any problems that you think are important. That might be a great way to start in isolating which board you're interested in. You can obtain the copies of the minutes or any recommendations that they've made at your city clerk, or if it's at the county level, at the county clerk's office. That's all public knowledge, so you have access to those records. Talk with current or former board members, also your elected officials on the governing body. And this is an important one as well, research related boards and commissions as a first step. So a lot of times, people want to shoot right for the really influential boards, like the planning board, say. And that's a really coveted position in every town, even at the county level, however you say. So, because the planning board really has a high level of responsibility. They have the power to make final decisions without needing to consult the governing body. So people want that position. It can be very political, a lot of times it's who you know, especially on the planning board. But so we would say work your way up. Check out what other boards and commissions exist in your town or your county that are related to the planning board, such as, this is an example of Atlantic City. Some boards and commissions that they have that are related to the planning board. You've got the zoning board, which every town has. An urban redevelopment agency. They have a shade tree commission, a local development board. These are all boards that are related under that land use cluster. So you might want to start with something a little bit lower level, spend a couple of years gaining experience and sort of working your way up. Because then when you apply for the planning board position after you've had, 2 years of service on the Shade Tree Commission and maybe a year of service on the Urban Redevelopment Agency, then you've got a little bit more clout, a little bit of experience to move you into a higher recognition for your application to be appointed to that planning board. We also have the power to create boards and commissions. So at the local level, the council creates the majority of the boards and commissions by ordinance. But the mayor also can create boards and commissions or task forces. The difference here is that you might have heard, the mayor's task force on any specific issue that's going on in your town. The mayor's task force on park cleanup or something like that. They're usually about an isolated, specific, short-term issue. And these are done through an executive order, so again, they're short-term, and they're not permanent, such as one would be if the council adopted one by ordinance and created it. But the most important thing here is that each one of us has the power to make a proposal to our town council or our county board of freeholders or county executive and suggest that a board or commission be created. So I'm not sure if Atlantic City, for example, has a transportation commission, but I bet that with all the redevelopment going on in that city and all of the development happening, that there might be some traffic problems, maybe even on a Friday or Saturday night with all the tourists coming in on a summer weekend night. So a transportation commission might be a really great thing to suggest being created to help deal with these traffic issues. And so how would you go about doing that? You would just make a proposal to your city council that one be created, and you just sort of lobby for that, and you have the opportunity to have that board created. I've seen this done all throughout the state with citizens suggesting this, sort of lobbying for this idea and actually getting it done. So it really is. It's not just an idealistic notion. It really happens. All of these boards and commissions were created from someone's idea, and they're not always elected officials. A lot of times they're citizens who really care about their community. So how to lobby for an appointment. So you want to prepare your best case, basically. Same thing as a job interview. Prepare a resume. I know there was a slide, and I'm not sure what happened to it, but I'm going to backtrack it a minute because some of our panelists will be talking about it. There was a law that was adopted in 2009 in the summer of. It was called the Citizen Service Act. And basically it created, or it mandated that every town across the state create a public directory of all the boards and commissions in their town. And either post it on the website or hold it in hard copy for people at the clerk's office to come and get this information. So now, no longer are these appointments sort of made in the darkness of government. There's this directory so people know where to go to get to see what boards and commissions exist. And there's also an application that's required to be there so people can just simply fill out this application and submit it. They know who to give it to. Beforehand it might have been the clerk saying, oh, you got to give that to the chair, and I don't have a contact number for that person. I'm not sure exactly what information they might want. Now it's in a streamlined format, and every citizen knows where to go to get this information and how to apply. And this is also important because it helps the elected officials create a larger pool of applicants. You might hear a lot of times people saying, oh, well, these political friends of the mayor and the council are being appointed to all these positions. It might just simply be the fact that no one else is coming forward and they need to fill these positions. And people might not be coming forward because beforehand they just didn't know where to go to get this information. So now the Citizen Service Act tells people where to go to get it and how to apply. So that's a pretty important law that was adopted thanks to Senator Whalen, who will talk about it in a couple of minutes. So you want to contact your mayor and council people, the chairman of the board, tell them that you're interested in these positions. Also the political leaders in the city. You might be a member of a certain political party within your town. You might want to talk to whoever your committee person is that represents your district and tell them, they might have the ear of the mayor or the council person and say, I'd really like, an appointment, maybe you can put in a good word for me, something like that. Attend the board meetings. Again, it's a great way for them to get to know who you are. And this last bullet point is a pretty important one, I think, because again, everybody here who's interested in serving in a board, there isn't an issue that originally made you passionate about serving on this board or commission. Again, if you're passionate about the environment and you're interested in serving in the environmental commission, there must be an issue surrounding the environment in your town that you were hoping to address on this environmental commission. So our suggestion is to develop a constructive proposal around that issue. If you're not, if you've applied and you haven't heard anything from the mayor or council, and you are going to board meetings and you're seeing other people being appointed, but you're not getting that call, you might want to do this just to get on their radar, so that next time when an appointment or a vacancy pops up, they say, hey, remember Lauren Skoronsky, that woman who made that proposal on cleaning up the toxic sites? She really knew what she was talking about. She put together a really great proposal that was logical, and she did her research. That might be somebody that we should bring on the board. She could really help us out, rather than just a nameless person who sent in an application. So that's another sort of tip that we have. And you can go onto our website, jointhecampaign.com, and take our course, which is a Citizen Legislator course, and it teaches you how to develop a constructive proposal on any issue. And then applying, as I mentioned, the Citizen Service Act. Also, some counties have this as well, and our state website, on the governor's website, does have this. There's an application to serve. It might be called a citizen service form, or it might be called an application to serve on the boards or commissions. But you can, download that off the website, or you can always call your city or county clerk, get a copy of that fax or email to you, or you can pick it up in person. And we suggest, submitting an application, and when you do, getting, a stamped copy or some sort of receipt so that you have a record that it was turned in and received. So I'm going to call the panel up now. We have a really great panel. You guys take your seats. And everybody here is going to have about 5 minutes, to go through their remarks, and then we're going to open it up to Q&A. That's right in your face, on there. With me. So I'm gonna shut the projector down so that it's not in their faces, but just to let you know that in all of your packets you have a gold form, and if you wouldn't mind, before the end of this, just filling out the gold form and turning it into Orville, who will be standing in the back doorway for my phone. Okay, Linda Katzkirk is the chair of the Casino Control Commission. She's been there since 2002, her second term. She has extensive knowledge of state boards, and she's going to talk to us about why it is important to serve on these boards and commissions.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. As Lauren said, I'm the current chair of the Casino Control Commission. I was appointed by Governor McGreevey in November of 2002 and reappointed 2 years ago by Governor Corzine. Just let me tell you a little bit about the Casino Control Commission. There are about 466 boards, commissions, and authorities in the state of New Jersey, so there's a lot of opportunity for service. The commission is constituted as having 5 members. No more than 3 can be from the same political party, and it is a full-time position. Some boards are part-time positions where you maybe have a meeting once a month. The Casino Control Commission is a full-time board. We go to work every day. That's our main job. We can't have any other position, can't have any other type of employment, and we are subject to advice and consent by the Senate. Probably, and I think, Lauren, you wanted me to touch upon Executive Order 51 as well?
Sure.
Okay, and I know Senator Whelan's going to talk about his legislation, which followed Executive Order 51. This was an executive order signed by Governor Corzine on January 29th, and it set up basically a little bit of what Lauren was talking about. It required the Appointments Office, which is part of the Governor's office, to set up a process where people could go online, look at the various boards, look at their members, look to see if there are vacancies, and then if they were interested, actually submit an application and a resume. So it's very, very interactive, and it sets up an entire database which is up and functioning. And again, Senator Whalen and Senator Baroni followed with legislation. So this is a great opportunity, you know, for you to go up and look and see what's available. The easiest way to get there is to go to the state website, and you'll see the governor's picture and website there, and you click on and just follow it down to what they call BCA, Boards, Commissions, and Authorities. So it's pretty easy to get to. And it tells you very, very easy to follow the directions in terms of submitting your resume and looking at the various boards. And as Lauren mentioned, you can actually call the appointments office, and that phone number is there, and talk to somebody in the appointments office if you need help or if you have an interest in a particular board. And some boards are full-time. As I said, the Casino Control Commission is. We're actually salaried. Some boards require advice and consent by the Senate. My commission is one of those. So when I was appointed and approved, I had to go through a process before the Senate Judiciary Committee, and they reviewed my resume and my qualifications and actually appointed me. And then I was subject to a full vote by the Senate. Some boards are direct appointments where the governor can just appoint people. Probably one of my favorite boards is the Domestic Companion Animal Board. And that's actually a pretty popular board in state government. I've heard of a lot of people interested in serving on that board. That's a direct appointment. So the governor can appoint how many members that are citizens. There's no other requirements. Other boards require certain expertise. There are boards associated with the Department of Consumer Affairs that regulate various kinds of jobs, from plumbers to electricians to cosmetologists to hairstylists, the whole gamut. And some of those boards may require that you have special expertise. The plumbing board, for example, may say that so many members have to be plumbers. But most of them also have room for public members, because the idea is that we want to solicit the public and get their input. There are boards that cover college boards of trustees. For both the county colleges, Stockton, for example, is a board that the governor can appoint members of the Board of Trustees to. Boards of taxation, every county has to have a board of taxation. As I said, boards dealing with regulated industries, policy-making boards, boards that, there's the Holocaust Education Board, for example. So if you have an interest in Holocaust education, that's an opportunity. Most of the boards in state government are unpaid. Some you can get a per diem rate, so that every time the board meets, you might get, a rate and mileage. And that's probably the most that you will get from most boards. But a lot of them are paid. For example, the CRDA board, the Casino Reinvestment Development Authority board, is a board that has 6 public members, and it pays about $18,500 a year, with the chairman making slightly more. And again, that's a board that's subject to advice and consent, and they have a number of public positions. So, it's a great opportunity to look for places to serve, a great opportunity to meet other people if you're interested in moving on from not just appointed positions to elected positions. A good opportunity to get your name out there and get to know, and especially if you have a particular interest. I think that's basically it, and I guess we'll, answer questions.
Sure. Okay. Thanks, Linda.
Thank you.
Howard Kyle is our next panelist. Howard is the Chief of Staff to Atlantic County Executive Denny Levinson, who actually adopted the Citizen Service Act at the county level in 2007. Back then it was called the Open Appointments Office. So Howard's going to talk to us about serving at the county level.
Yeah, we were one of the first involved in that. The county executive has been very supportive about having people on citizen advisory boards. So that's the good point. But the downside of that is because we've been so active in soliciting membership, almost all our advisory boards at the present time are filled. We do solicit interest through the internet. You go to our website, www.aclink.org. You can follow it and we'll take you there. So our county advisory boards, three different groups. One is that we have, we're in the educational boards, the 2 schools, or 3 schools. We operate 3 schools. Atlantic Cape Community College, we appoint 6 county members on that board. We also have Atlantic County Institute of Technology. Some of you may know know that as the vocational school. We have 7 members there. And we have the Atlantic County Special Services School District. Those are children with special needs. We have 5 members of that. Those boards are very active. They do meet monthly. They have major decisions that they make. For example, the school board, a college and the vocational school, both have embarked on major capital programs recently. So they've been very much in the news. And also they've been sort of controversial because they are spending some money. But those boards are ones where we get a lot of interest on. I think currently there are any vacancies on those boards. Public authorities, 2 main public authorities we appoint to. The Atlantic County Utilities Authority. They have a solid waste, wastewater, and recycling programs, very active organization, very large organization, large number of employees. Sometimes they can be controversial, whereas right now, at the moment we're speaking, I think there's a public hearing regarding their waste flow, where they can take the trash and where it's going to be restricted to. That's happening right now in Atlantic City with the PREO report. We have the Atlantic County Improvement Authority, which has sort of dropped down in stature a little bit because at one time it was the leading agency for building the convention center in Atlantic City. Since that time, its role has compressed a bit, but it's still active. It does redevelopment projects, housing projects, and was to a certain extent involved in building the aviation research and technology park in Egg Harbor Township. The mainstay of county government are our advisory boards and commissions. Right? And when filling these boards, we take into consideration a lot of factors. For example, we do try to have diversity. We try to get racial, ethnic, and also geographic diversity. So we don't have everyone from the eastern section of Atlantic County. We're ignoring the western section, places like Corbin City, Folsom, Hamilton, and so forth. These boards can be subcategorized. Some are mandated, some are required by state statutes, such as the Youth Services Commission or our Mental Health Advisory Board. They help distribute state funds that come in. They have a major say in what agencies get funding and how it's distributed and what are the priorities for funding. Other advisory boards help in administering county programs. We have the Library Commission. They advise us, of course, on the operation of the county library system. Police Training Advisory Board takes into consideration police training issues, fire training, and the Emergency Management Advisory Board. Those boards usually are a little bit more specific at times. For example, in emergency management, you have to have an interest and also a role in that process. Third, we go on to county advisory boards that help us establish policies and priorities, such as our Environmental Advisory Board, our Parks Advisory Board, the Veterans Advisory Board, and our Cultural and Heritage Affairs Advisory Board. They tend to be very active. The Women's Commission Advisory Board is very active. And if you want to get involved, if you have an interest, I would start by following up on the boards with some personal diagnostic questions you can ask yourself. For example, in the advisory board, what do you have a sincere interest in? I mean, if you're not interested in Veterans Affairs, obviously it wouldn't make much sense to get on the Veterans Advisory Board or apply for that. If you don't like to read books, I wouldn't recommend the library board. Right? So determine where you have a sincere interest, and that's where you want to focus your energy. Second thing, very, very important question. Am I willing and able to commit the time and effort to be part of this board? Now, sometimes you have to check in advance. Certain advisory boards meet in the evening, certain advisory boards meet during the day. So you have to make a determination whether that meeting schedule accommodates your personal requirements. A very, very important point I found in dealing with advisory boards, and I'm personally active with a lot of them, and is to ask yourself, are you willing to learn, or do you think you already know everything? And maybe willing to learn, that's a very important point. If you come in there with the attitude you already know it, usually it's somewhat disruptive. But if you come in with an attitude where you're really willing to learn more about how the board operates, priorities, it can be very beneficial. And fourth point, are you tolerant of different viewpoints? Not everyone on an advisory board is going to have the same opinion on an issue. Nor do we want everyone on an advisory board to have the same opinion. So it's important that you accept that fact and are willing to work with people, different backgrounds, different ethnicities, and also, most important, different points of view. So with that, I'll move
Great.
on.
Thank you, Howard. Our next panelist is Mayor of Lower Township in Cape May, Michael Beck, and he is a big proponent for open government and government ethics. So he's going to talk about the local level.
He covered everything. I passionate about open government. I did 25 years as a Philly police lieutenant, moved down, and now I'm in my 14th year teaching captain school at Star of the Sea in Cape May. I became involved by accident and ended up as the councilman. I became a community activist, took on a task, ran against the party, won, and for 8 years I was the Republican councilman from the Villas area. And 2 major accomplishments, and I set out earlier, I said, well, I need to do something, because I'm not going to sit here. It was pay-to-play legislation, which I fought, and we were the first to have it down here. And the second thing was to bring cameras into our meetings. And what a fight that was, to get cameras, because no politician likes to be embarrassed. And there was a history in Cape May of a town that did have it, where it turned into a circus. It was must-see TV if you watched their council meetings. So it was totally taboo and off the table. So I remember sitting there and said, well, we want to put TV in here, and everybody said, well, absolutely not. And the only reason they could come up with it was because we'd already passed the budget, they didn't have the money. So I said, well, I'll pay for it. So it cost me $1,500, but we had television in Lower Township. And my wife, who was not involved in government at all, was the camera lady. And I'd see her red hair coming from behind, and she'd be looking up at me, and she would like, hit him, what is it? But we had to take the tapes home, we'd have to process them, take them to the schools, and they would put them on. And lo and behold, when I left, because 2 terms, I said, I'm done, and I leave, we find out that they can't replace it. They won't put the TV in, so the people come down and demand that the TV be put in there. And now we have television back in Lower Township again. So we've created a population of 22,000 watchdogs. This is the last great stand for government. You and everybody else to get involved. We need you. I'm passionate about that. So I ran for mayor. I switched to independent, ran off the line in the presidential year, and I won. I was fortunate to do so. So right away when we came in, the first thing out of the gate was a mayor's advisory board. I think we have the only one that I can find right now. And Fred Long over there is a member of the board. And I'm happy because it's lasted a year and it's still up and rolling. We had one 15 years ago at the first meeting. Somebody brought up the papers for a nuclear waste dump site in Lower Township. That was their first and last meeting. That goes back to politicians not wanting to be embarrassed. We have done all sorts of different things since then. We've created an email newspaper where we email the township residents. As the local papers diminish, we not only have the television for the meetings, but we now have a newspaper that goes out once a month. It has all the township news, and you can register and have that sent to you. We've done a myriad of things, lowered copies from 75 cents to 15 cents. We continue to push for any form of open government that we can have there. As somebody who's at ground zero with board appointments, what Lauren was saying is true. What impresses me is somebody who attends a meeting and sits in front of me and is a regular attendee, and they've shown that they have the commitment. I don't have to worry about them attending 2 meetings and not coming back. They're proving that to me by coming to the township meetings and getting in grasp. And then the best thing you can do is to maybe buttonhole the council people after the meeting and say, look, I want to put in for this specific board. And again, a lot of what was said before was well taken. Don't go onto the board that you really don't want to be on. And we do have problems on occasion with people who can't get along with people on the boards, and then it's a nightmare. So we're always searching for people, and it is, you know, it's almost an obligation of the citizens to step up and help us. It's a tough fight sometimes. Right now, we had an MUA appointment about 2 months ago, and I knew that one of the appointees that the other guys were putting on there, his brother-in-law works there and is also a problem. And I raised that issue, and you would have thought that, you know, in public. Now, their solution to that is to have a poll before we come to council, and then announce what we decided will be our pick, and we're not to grill people and ask them questions in public. It's a total step back from the open government, and I thought that, you know, luckily our solicitor made this up with that we need help. You are the answer, so please come out and join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Our next panelist is Senator Whalen, who was, as Linda said, the main sponsor, along with Senator Barone, in the legislature last year for the Citizen Service Act, which was adopted. So, Senator is going to talk a little bit about, why that Citizen Service Act is important and, how it plays a part in making your lives easier getting appointments.
Thank you, Laura. First of all, let me congratulate the Citizens Campaign and everyone here. I got to be honest, when I walked into the room across the hall, I was shocked at how many people were there. So congratulations on your commitment, even to the extent of being here tonight, and I suspect that many of you are already somewhat active in your communities. The bill's been talked about a little bit. I think there are a couple of things that are important from your perspective as people who may have an interest. One is the vacancy situation. It used to be people get on board, and if they stopped showing up, it was very difficult to remove them. You almost had to wait for their term to be over. It might be a 4-year term, and they're not showing up, and they show up once a year or something. And now, if they are absent 2 meetings in a row, the board has the right to vacate that seat. They don't do it automatically. Obviously, if someone is sick, extenuating circumstances, 2 meetings in a row or something like that, you don't kick somebody off if they've been a good board member. But you have that ability to examine the issue much earlier on than waiting for the full term to expire. Secondly, the ability to get the information for you as citizens to go to your town clerk and say, list of all the boards. And on that list should be, who's on the board, when they were appointed, when their term expires, so then you know when that vacancy is going up. A lot of times people are reappointed, a lot of times people move on, but okay, the planning board's going to have 2 openings next year, ready to go, and we know Mary's moving to Florida, so there's really going to be a real vacancy. Joe's sticking around. I'd like to just cover one other thing that's been touched upon in terms of joining boards and citizen involvement and getting active. I think it's important that individuals establish some credibility in their communities, whether that's coaching a little league team, or being active with the PTA, or being a teacher, as Mayor Beck is and I am, being active in your church group, or your neighborhood improvement group, or neighborhood watching, whatever it is, but something that starts to bring some credibility. So, like when I was mayor of Atlantic City, I could think of the neighborhoods, and I could think of who the leaders of the Venice Park Neighborhood Association was, or Bungalow Park Civic Association, or Chelsea Heights, or whatever, because they all had their little groups, and they had people who were active, and those are the people who sort of come to the fore when you're looking to fill positions, planning board, zoning board, library board, whatever. The second thing, I guess there's no polite way to say this. You can't be a wacko. Okay? And there are, there are people who are community activists and watchdogs, and God bless them. But sometimes, they get so far out there, frankly, that they don't have that credibility that we would look for. Now, I can recall an example, Howard, you remember this. There was discussion over where to site the new convention center in Atlantic City. One of the boardwalks was going to stay and become what it had become, and where we were going to put the new one, and there was a lot of discussion as to another boardwalk site next to the one that was there, knock down the ones there, build new, this and that. And we were at a meeting, and there was an individual who got up and said, we should put it out off the end of $1 Million Pier in the ocean. Yeah, everybody's looking at me. I didn't say it. I didn't know. But, and the guy went on for about 10 minutes about how you come off the expressway and go into a tunnel and go under the boardwalk and under the beach and go out about a quarter mile into the ocean and pop up and go into, and it's like, do you remember that? It was a memorable idea. And I guess hypothetically, if you had enough money, you could do that. I mean, they built a tunnel from France, so if you had enough money, you could do things like that. From a practical matter, whether you would want to and convince people that, I mean, we just had a basketball tournament in Atlantic City this weekend, and if, you had that out in the middle of the ocean, I don't think there'd be a lot of people willing to go. So I use that as an example in terms of trying to establish your credibility. I think it's important to examine issues and look at issues, as Howard has said, be open to other ideas and engage in the debate. But, don't be a wacko. And with that, I guess we'll open up the questions. And again, congratulations on everyone being here and to the organizers of this event for a great tournament.
Thank you. Okay, so we will open it up to Q&A. So if you have a question for the panelists, just raise your hand. Try to get to everybody. We have about 20 minutes. Sir?
So Mayor Beck, my town is trying to do the same thing you do, having our council meetings with television.
Okay.
Have met incredible resistance.
Okay. I understand that. As
Well,
far as-
I can understand that too, but I think, especially with what's going on in our country now, that having open government is more popular and looked at than it has been in the past. The results we got out of our attempts to put them on TV was the virtual elimination of the public portion. Now we get a half an hour public portion, 6 people, 5 minutes, and we're chosen by the council. And all of us in this room probably not accurate. So we did a real. Yeah, it is a.
It's illegal. I mean, what they're doing, pardon me interrupting, and I'm not a lawyer, looking at no Brown
No,
issue.
you're absolutely right.
Well, I don't know how to get away with it.
Well, I think Little Township had a big thing about cameras inside the town meetings. What I'm saying is, I believe you could actually go in there and tape them. I
But
mean,
we do.
yourself.
We do.
Well, that's they had, Wildwood had some on YouTube. But I mean, you need to get enough people, maybe a petition, right? Get people to sign the petition and then present them with 100 signatures or whatever. And then you can point to success stories for towns that have crashed and burned with it. There are towns trying to do it. Government's messy at times. We're not perfect on TV. I can promise you that. I have to shop at 7 in the morning and shop because if I go at 10 o'clock, and it's not what I want. But it is that way. You could have the island people all around you, and some of them are yelling at me. So I mean, government is messy. You argue in front of the camera, and you get embarrassed sometimes in front of the camera.
I just want to add to that, because with the freeholders, I know that there was opposition for years as far as televising the freehold meetings, which are now televised. And I think part of the issue became when candidates were running for office, one of the things that they promised is, I'm going to start televising the meetings. So with technology and the internet, it's almost impossible now to argue against doing it. It's not that expensive to do. I'm all for televising meetings or making meetings available on video format. But I will admit, it does add time to the meetings. It has changed the tone of the meetings because people will talk a little longer and they will play to the camera, but that's the price that you have to pay for that.
Especially during campaign.
That's right. Election year, they'll all come out.
The one trend is, my feeling is there should be one camera in the room, stationary. What I've also seen are people bringing the cameras for political purposes. In other words, to catch their opponent picking his nose or sitting there, or just saying something or stumbling over his words, then they'll show up on YouTube and run in a continuous loop. That I don't really think.
We've taken a place that we have one camera, it's on a tripod, it's turned on, and it's turned off. We don't edit it, we do nothing.
Yeah, so that's-
When I stood before a council and asked them why they opposed it, I didn't care why, just tell me why.
Do you have an agreement with the schools to show it on the type channel? Or?
We've got an agreement with to go on the local Comcast.
You might want to consider podcasts. That's like the new thing too. That's a lot cheaper, and you can link it to your township's website.
The answer to that was that we have a lot of elder people who doesn't have to do it. We're talking about guys that can answer on their feet. And that was the objection we got.
Well, my belief is television increased attendance in our council meetings. Because people watched what was going on, and you would be shocked to see how many people consider it to be must-see TV. They actually tune in. And after a while, they get used to some of the wrangling, and it's not that big of an issue. They accept it. But it is really a great venue for communicating with the public with information.
Sarah Booster?
Oh, thank you. I'm actually on a board already, Board of Economic Development, and I'm trying to get a grassroots effort going and try to raise concerns for certain issues. And I'm trying to recruit actually other board members too. And how important is that? Like, I mean, is that really our responsibility to do that?
Which county or community are you in?
Monroe Township, Flushing County.
The county advisory board, and I stress, this is one of the things I do a discussion with members when they're interested in a good interview, with a preliminary interview, is it's an advisory board to the executive first and foremost. So we really don't want the advisory board running out taking positions publicly without making the recommendation to the executive and having him sign off on it. With a citizen advisory board, we listen to your recommendations, and generally we do apply your recommendations, but we don't accept every recommendation for various reasons. So you want to work, what are you specifically trying to do, is work with other advisory boards? Are you got a movement going?
Well, I want to help downtown, basically, revitalize downtown.
I don't know how it works in your particular community, but have you made a recommendation to your mayor?
Well, we're in the process of putting together a plan, a constructive plan.
I think what's important, I think what Howard was saying, you can't get too far ahead of the elected leadership.
Okay.
In part, because ultimately, they're going to decide, they don't want to be embarrassed, they need to know what's going on. You know, and there may be other factors. You know, you're looking at a piece of empty ground that's publicly owned, you're out there trying to get a developer. In the meantime, the mayor's already talking to the developer.
Yeah, right.
You know, and now you got problems. So you can't get too far ahead of the elected leadership. And in the case of an appointed board, I think the first responsibility goes back to the individual who appointed you, whether you're appointed by a council member or mayor or whoever. That's the person you should be talking to first, and then from there to the rest of the leadership in the community. I mean, I assume that's how you would feel.
Yeah, you want to know what's going on. You don't want to get blindsided.
Now, somebody went to the shop.
That's it. But yeah, I hope you sell that pizza and walk around.
So how do you make a decision which is best, a local or more regional and county? Is there a difference in the routine of it, of the power of it, or how it works?
The advisory board, I'll give a quick answer, and that is, it depends on what your purpose is. If your purpose crosses over regional boundaries, it involves more than one municipality, then that most likely should be something that pertains to a county. If you're specifically interested in that, we'll say a park in Atlantic City or Mays Landing, and you want to just work on developing that goes to a municipal function. If it crosses municipal boundaries, it could be a county issue.
Yes, I have a question. I'm here, I want to learn, how would I go about getting a bus shelter built at a bus stop?
I would start with New Jersey Transit. I assume it's a New Jersey Transit bus line.
Right. I heard it's in front of a Walmart shopping center, and I've been told by numerous bus drivers, Walmart doesn't want it. So I assume you'd have to fight with Walmart also.
Well, I would verify, see, everything
Yeah, right.
is verified. I would, two ways, number one, if it's New Jersey Transit, it would come under New Jersey Transit. You start with that. But also, if Walmart were to support that, I think it would help you. I do know from experience, the problem with bus shelters in front of businesses is that people, we've had cases where people come to us complaining, even though we don't have responsibility for it, where people leave trash and debris and so forth, and it interferes with their businesses, so some people don't.
But it's a strip mall, so it wouldn't be in front of the store. It'd be 300 yards away or something like that.
I would,
You need the local community too.
Right.
So you start with, Howard's right, start with New Jersey Transit, go to people in your local town, and then frankly, try to keep it to Walmart. That's a good idea, because if they're for it, you wouldn't be against it.
Yeah, thank you.
I live in a semi-rural community, and there's a lot of cynicism with the government in general. I really try to educate people on the importance of just voting in general and attending commission meetings. I was successful in working with a political campaign to get an individual elected to office in the Mays Landing area. Very educational to me. I'm trying to establish a system of educating local residents on municipal government in general and how to negotiate in a non-adversarial way, with research and knowing what the issues are and presenting a good foundation for change for the general area. So that's why I come here. Things that you said in general are I'm very responsive to, especially power of positive change. And that's what I have to say. So I'm here to just fine tune my skills and learn.
You learn by doing, by going out there and starting to work with people and networking and having a common goal, and you go forward from there. It's encouraging to see all the people. It's tough down in the trenches in ground zero.
Yeah.
I mean, there were times at council meetings when we outnumbered the people that were in front of us. When the news meeting, you'd have 3 news meetings and 2 people that were citizens. And I mean, I'm being honest with you.
Just picking up what I agree. I would say in my 28 years association with government, I don't think I've seen the degree of cynicism that you see today. I think it's probably exceeded right now. And I do remember going back years ago, freeholder meetings would be over in, without exaggeration, 20, 30 minutes. We'd just be in, out, the public came, and it was just something that was very routine. There really wasn't much public involvement. Times were good, everyone was doing well, people just didn't care. That's all changed, and I think some of that's changed greatly for the better. But pick up on one point that the mayor said as far as educating people. And the biggest difficulty I see in dealing with concerned citizens are the ones, use your terms, the people who are a little bit too extreme to just, Will Rogers, I think, was one who said it, it's not what you know, not what you don't know, it's what you know that ain't so, it causes a lot of problems. And I find that everyone will come, not everyone, a lot of people will come in with just no substantive understanding of an issue and keep insisting that it be done that way. For example, in intersections, roadway improvements are the biggest thing. Everyone's a highway engineer. Usually there are reasons why you can't, I know you know that from experience. You talked about the guy who wanted to build the convention center of the ocean. We had cases where Dorset Avenue and Ventnor where they want a big, bascule bridge where you don't have to open it. We started pointing out, well, you couldn't possibly do it because to get the incline, to get the grade, you have to start in the bay. You don't have to come down at the front of the ocean. You can't build that kind of bridge. So it's a little complicated at times. But at this day and age, this is part of government. You have to accept these challenges.
Just an observation. The other problem, again, public officials, many of whom are grossly underpaid for the use they get, whether it's at a ShopRite or at a basketball game or wherever. There seems to be, with some people, a lack of stability when they do come out to a public meeting or a forum. And that is something that I don't know how you rectify that, but screaming isn't the way to make progress. You have to be able to have a dialogue and a conversation that is civil, and I would hope that people becoming involved, learning about government and issues, and coming in with facts and not just believing that anyone in the government is a crook or out to feather their own nest and just coming in to attack it. Having people come out to something like this, I think is an important step in trying to get that civil aspect of discourse back forward in the process.
No, I think you brought up a great point. I just wanted to elected office, and they all come from the experience of having those non-civil discussions with citizens at meetings, and how it just turns them off. And I can say that I go to council meetings and freeholder meetings all over the state, and I know exactly who, I might not have ever been in the town before, but I know exactly who the person is who gets up at every meeting and just complains and doesn't offer any constructive solutions, and isn't no blame just by the tone of the council president when he or she calls that person's name, and then I see them, texting is completely disengaging because they know they're just going to be attacked and they're not going to be respected, and likely there's not going to be any sort of constructive solution coming from the citizens. So I think it's just, we advocate for the no blame approach because it's not just common sense, but it really is politically smart. You don't attack the people that you want to get something from. You don't want to put them on the defense, right? Caroline Fizicki is actually one of the founders of the Citizens Campaign.
True, but I had a different question.
Sure.
I concur with that. I think that, obviously, if you want to get something done practically, don't create a fight. Just go and get it done. But you got to know how to do it. So you need these skills in order to make something, happen. But I wanted to ask you, Assemblyman, when you say, go to New Jersey Transit, say to the gentleman who, wanted to, look into getting the bus shelter. What do you do exactly? I mean, when you say contact New Jersey Transit, are you calling them up? Are you writing them a letter with a request? Where do you send it? I mean, do you?
Well, I mean,
what else can
things.
one do?
A lot of times, the reality is that the written letter will get a written response, and now you start to have a record, whether it's NJ Transit, bus shelter, or anything else. A phone conversation, the guy's going to check something out and get back to you, he never does, this, that, and the other. But a written, letter, can be emailed at this point, but you'll get a written response, even if it's an email form, and now you got something to go. And the same thing, frankly, on that particular issue, because it takes two. NJ Transit will not put up a bus shelter if the town does not want the bus shelter. Okay, so you may want to copy